1C. Clara, a European woman, was visiting the bustling capital of a South American country. She enjoyed the vibrant culture and friendly people, but one evening at a bus stop, her experience took a dark turn. It was around 0 p.m., and the usually crowded street was eerily quiet. Clara was waiting alone when she noticed a man standing across the street, partially hidden by shadows. He seemed to be watching her. Clara tried to ignore him, but as the minutes passed, the man began to move closer, his gaze never leaving her. He didn't speak or make any gestures, just silently approached. Clara's heart raced as she realized she was alone in an unfamiliar city with a stranger who was deliberately closing the distance between them. Suddenly, the man reached into his coat and Clara's fear spiked. Before she could react, a bus pulled up. She quickly boarded and told the driver about the man. The driver looked concerned and drove off immediately. Clara glanced back to see the man standing where she had been, watching the bus with an unsettling smile. She never saw him again, but the memory of his silent, menacing presence haunted her for the rest of her trip. Story. Marie, a European traveler, found herself at a deserted bus stop in a South American capital late one night. The city was usually vibrant, but tonight it felt like a ghost town. She checked her phone. It was just after midnight, and the bus was running late. The air was heavy, and an unsettling silence surrounded her. Out of nowhere, a bus appeared, old and dilapidated, but Maria was relieved to see it. She boarded quickly, noticing the eerie silence inside as well. The passengers sat motionless, staring ahead with vacant eyes. Her driver, an old man with a gaunt face, didn't acknowledge her. Marie took a seat, but something felt wrong. The bus route seemed unfamiliar, and she couldn't recognize any landmarks. Panic set in when she realized the bus was heading out of the city, into a dark, desolate area. She approached the driver, who ignored her pleas to stop. Desperation turned into terror as the bus plunged into darkness. Just as Marie thought she was lost forever, the bus screeched to a halt at a lonely bus stop in the middle of nowhere. She stumbled off, and the bus vanished into the night. Marie never found out where she had been taken, but she learned later that the bus she boarded had disappeared from the city's records years ago. Story 3. Isabel, a European woman exploring a South American capital, was waiting for her bus at a lonely stop. It was dusk, and the city's vibrant energy was fading into the shadows. As she waited, she heard faint whispers behind her. She turned, but no one was there. The whispers continued, growing louder and more insistent. Isabel felt a chill run down her spine as the shadows around her seemed to move and take shape. She could make out vague, human-like forms, their whispering voices filling her ears. They spoke in a language she couldn't understand, but their tone was menacing. In a state of growing fear, Isabel backed away from the bus stop, but the shadows followed, their whispers now a cacophony of threatening tones. Just as she thought she would be overwhelmed, a bus arrived, its headlights piercing the darkness. She boarded quickly, the whispers fading as the bus drove away. Isabel recounted her experience to the driver, who nodded solemnly. He told her the bus stop was known for strange occurrences, a place where restless spirits lingered. Isabel never waited at that bus stop again, and the memory of the whispering shadows stayed with her long after she left the city. Story 4. Emily, a European tourist, was enjoying her time in a South American capital. One evening, she waited for her bus at a quiet stop near a park. It was around 0 p.m., and the sun was setting. Suddenly, she noticed a little girl standing alone, looking like Emily approached her and asked if she needed help. The girl, dressed in old-fashioned clothes, looked at Emily with sad eyes and whispered, "I can't find my mother." Emily's heart went out to her, and she offered to stay with the girl until they found help. As they waited, Emily felt a strange sense of unease. The air around them grew colder, and the park seemed to fall into an unnatural silence. After what felt like an eternity, a bus arrived. Emily tried to guide the girl onto the bus, but the child hesitated. Emily turned to coax her, but to her shock, the girl had vanished. She looked around frantically, but there was no trace of the child. Emily boarded the bus, shaken and confused. She told the driver about the girl, and he listened quietly. When she finished, he said, "People often see her here. She disappeared years ago, and they say she's still looking for her mother." Emily never forgot the encounter, the image of the vanishing child haunting her long after she returned home. Story 5. Anna, a European traveler, was in the South American capital, waiting for a bus at an isolated stop. It was late afternoon, and the street was unusually empty. As she waited, she noticed a piece of paper fluttering near her feet. Curious, she picked it up and read the hastily scrawled message. "Leave now, danger is coming." Her chill ran down her spine, and she looked around nervously. There was no one in sight, but the warning filled her with dread. She decided to heed the note's advice and walked away from the bus stop. As she hurried down the street, she saw a man emerge from a nearby alley, his eyes scanning the area where she had just been. The man looked dangerous, and Anna's fear intensified. She quickened her pace, constantly checking over her shoulder. Just as she turned a corner, she saw a bus approaching. She ran to the next stop and boarded, breathless and shaken. As the bus pulled away, she glanced back and saw the man standing where she had been, his expression one of frustration. Anna never found out who left the note, but she was grateful. It had saved her from a potential encounter with a dangerous stranger, and she vowed to always trust her instincts in the future.